If you're wondering why there's a tractor sitting in the shop here, it's because I had a minor repair, actually 2 minor repairs to make on the tractor, and one of them blew up in my face, quite literally. Although, I'm okay, it was kind of a bad deal. Anyway, instead of starting in the middle, I'm going to start this story at the beginning. Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms. Today I'm going to get a little bit of seat time on the tractor, which is always a good thing. I had the backhoe on here a couple weeks ago to dig my dad a burn hole, and I was about to take it off the other day. I thought, no, why don't I make sure and get all my backhoe work done while this is on here instead of swapping attachments back and forth. And I've actually thought of 4 projects I need to do with the backhoe. We're going to try to get at least 2 of them done right now. So let's get started. So I've dug this drainage swale from up by the pond, and actually if the pond ever overflows, it'll hit this swale. And I'm running it off the property this way, down into the drainage ditch here. And it drains perfectly, but when we get a lot of rain, I get a puddle right here. Because when we were doing it, we didn't exactly finish it out. And it needs to finish this section right here, and then actually across the fence. I ran into a problem, and I actually have another problem that I'd almost forgot about. So, first problem is my grapple won't open and close. And I don't know why. I've tried cycling it and the curl dump function works, but I have a diverter. When I push the button, I think I can hear the solenoid engage. It feels like I can see these hoses flex under pressure. Actually, I'm thinking the first thing I want to do is disconnect this cylinder from the grapple itself and make sure that that's not bound up somehow. And if the cylinder can function when it's disconnected, then we know that's not the problem. Or I can, move the grapple by hand. Alright, the grapple doesn't seem to be locked up in any way. Let's just see what happens when we try to cycle it like this. Because it looked like this was trying to move, and if the diverter's messed up, or there's a wiring issue with the diverter, alright, from a troubleshooting standpoint, if the diverter was not getting electrical signal, then whenever I push that button and move my handle, the bucket will curl and dump, and it's not doing that. So we're getting electrical signal and we're getting fluid diversion. If we weren't getting fluid diversion, it would curl and dump. The cylinder, could this cylinder actually be bad? Or could I have a blockage on my splitter? I think before I get too carried away, I'm going to unplug the lines and just plug them into the other side of this splitter. Cylinder cycled after I swapped the hoses. So either one of those connections wasn't made properly, even though it felt like they were all the way in. Maybe I could have unplugged it and plugged it back in. I'll have to troubleshoot that to see, or there's a blockage on one side of the splitter. All right, now I can get back to work, and then at the end, we'll try to figure out that coolant problem. So it was a huge relief when I switched these hoses and it worked. Because if I had just put this grapple on and tried to cycle it and it wouldn't cycle, I might have thought, well, I didn't get the hoses plugged in all the way. Let's check that first. But I was using this the other day. Then I started the tractor up today. On the way down to the job, I saw a big rock kind of laying off to the side. I said, that doesn't need to be laying there. I went over and picked it up with the grapple, and the grapple worked. I got down to the fence line, said, I'm just going to drop this grapple here, and the grapple wouldn't open. It was kind of weird the way that happened. But I guess the thing to do now is to switch this back to the other side. And if it works, we'll just forget this ever happened. So when I hook up to this side of the splitter, it works. When I hook up to this side of the splitter, it doesn't. And the way this is plumbed, I've got the Artilian third function, which is a diverter valve, up there. It diverts fluid down here. So this is my third function lines right here. They come into this splitter, and one side is working, the other side isn't. I'm guessing I've got a piece of dirt in there, inside of this splitter that's blocking the flow. I've had this on here for 3 years and 800 hours of tractor use. I think I'll take this apart and check it out, and I might just have to get a new one from Artilian if it's above my pay grade. But in this video, I'm going to see if I can figure out what's wrong with this. But first, while O'Reilly's is open, I'm going to see if I can deal with my coolant problem. So right now, I'm only seeing a few drops of coolant come off of this. But a couple months ago, the tractor overheated when I hadn't been running it long, and it was out of coolant. So I added some coolant, did it again, and I found there was a leak right here. I replaced this hose. Now this isn't a factory hose. This is what I've added for my cab to divert coolant up for the heater. So I actually saw fluid dripping right there. I said, okay, that's the problem. I fixed it. And now I've still got a little bit of a leak right here. I normally keep my tractor outside where you're not going to see drips under it. But last week I parked it in here and I had a big pool of coolant. And I see this is wet right here. So I think this is also a T that I put in. Yeah, this is the T that goes to the other side of my heater. So this is one direction and then this would be the return. So let's get that hose clamp off there. Went and got this oil reservoir to try to catch any spilled fluid in. I'm thinking now I probably won't have any spilled fluid because the last 2 times I parked in here, I had a big pool of coolant. Today, I don't. So what that tells me is it's probably really low. So you just watched me do something really stupid, and hopefully we can all learn from that. Because I had let the tractor sit to cool off. I pushed on the hoses. I could tell it wasn't that hot, and there wasn't that much pressure. And then, like I said a minute ago, every time I park in here, I get this big puddle of fluid, and I didn't have it today. And I thought, man, I don't have enough fluid to leak there. So I just pulled that off, and I should have been wearing eye protection and been more thoughtful about that, about draining the fluid in a better way. Like always, I could have just pretended none of this happened. I could have cleaned the mess up, put that hose on and then took it back off and no leak. I mean, like, yep, we're low on fluid. But that doesn't help anyone when I hide my mistakes. I've got more than enough hose. Shouldn't I just be able to cut the end off this and get a new hose clamp? And then the rest of the day, I'll just be tasting antifreeze, which is awesome. I went and got some hose clamps, snipped that hose off, stuck it on with the new clamp. Pretty sure it'll be fine. I'm going to assume so until I see otherwise, at least. This hydraulic splitter from Artelian, I'm not sure what to do, but I'm going to try to go through it logically one step at a time and troubleshoot this down to find out if it's, you know, just something clogging it up or if we have a major problem here. But I gotta say, I've got about every product Artelian makes, and this is the first time that I've had a problem with any of it. And so I'm also about 800 hours in over the course of 3 years since I installed this. So hopefully it's just something clogged in there. But for troubleshooting this, we know that we're getting fluid into this. We know the diverter's working. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is find out if it's the fittings. We have good flow on this side, but not this side. So I'm going to pop these fittings off. And I might actually just switch the fittings from one to the other. And if that solves the problem, we know we have a bad fitting. But I thought I was just going to pop these off. Ugh. I don't know who put them on. He must have been one stout dude. I hit it with Rust Patrol, tried it, hit it again with Rust Patrol, tried it again, and this one is broke loose. I think I felt the other one move. There we go. So, I've been happy, by the way, with that Rust Patrol. I've been using it for quite a while now. Seems to do a good job. I guess for this plan to work, I still have to get the other two off. This will tell us for certain if it's something inside the block or outside the block. So that would tell me it's definitely a fitting. I guess, just to see what happens, let's unplug them and put them on the other side. So earlier I described how this happened. I was using it, drove just a little ways, and it wouldn't work anymore. That made me think I had a major problem. I didn't just plug it in and it didn't work. So I thought I had an electrical problem, or the solenoid was bad, and it was the diverter itself. Then I thought the block was bad, but just a little bit of process of elimination told me that the only possible thing we could have here is a bad fitting. So one of those two fittings is bad. Maybe I can even take it off and spray some lube in it and maybe free it up. But more than likely, I'll just go get a new fitting. No big deal. Every time something like this happens, it's a learning experience, and I learned some valuable lessons today. One is, don't take a hose off of something without covering your eyes. That was a bad deal. But anyway, I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.